Your brain goes some weird places, huh?
It does.
We're back. Welcome to Comedic Behavior Therapy. I'm Heather Scott.
I'm Tristan Shae, and we have a special guest with us here today. His name is Barack Lesnar. We've shouted him out on this podcast before. Definitely a big inspiration of mine, so we're glad to have you here.
Man, I love to inspire white males. It's one of my favorite things to do, so that meant a lot to me. Thank you.
I think you've inspired probably a lot of white males.
Probably did inspire white males in more than one way.
My goal is to inspire an insurrection in Columbus comedy. I'm sorry, that's...
Oh my God.
That's
I would.
bad.
I mean, I would put on a buffalo hat and do stand up. You know,
Oh my God.
if that's all that means.
Hell yeah, we're on our way.
We're almost there.
I'm kidding to you sensitive people.
Yeah, we're not trying to be offensive. We're
not. We're trying to be
sorry.
offensive.
We're comedians,
so we don't
you
get
know?
canceled.
Yes, offensive. We want to, you can't always be on defense. You have to be on offensive, right? Like sports.
Exactly.
Offensive.
You can only fight oppression and ignorance
Yes.
by being offensive.
Yes, with racist jokes.
Exactly.
I mean, you can make all the racist jokes you want, you know?
It's true. And I talk about this sometimes with my bits. I'm like, hey, I make a lot of jokes about race. If you want to trade me your credit score for your ability to tell these jokes, then please, let's go right ahead. And no one ever takes me up on the offer, so I'm going to keep telling these
what is your
jokes.
credit score?
I'm going to tell you
Don't tell
that.
me.
Let's just say it's better than I like to joke that it is.
Oh,
All right, let's just say that.
I know, right? So basically, what we like to do, like especially with a guest, we like to just like get to know you, or like ask you how you got in comedy, or like how was your week?
Do you want my social security number too?
That one too, yeah.
Yeah,
Since we're on the topic,
What would that be again? Okay.
we got it ready to write down. So that's one question at a time, right?
I know.
So
I asked like 4.
yeah, how has your week been, Barack?
My week's been pretty fun. Been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. I did a comedy competition on Tuesday. I got to do Thursdays with Neff Johnson. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
That was on Thursday. And then I went to Space Bar. That's Wonder Doug's Mike. That was on Thursday. And right after the Attic show. And that was a good time as well. My buddy Ty Moore, shout out to him, was one of the guest hosts. So it was a good time.
We love Ty Moore.
We love Ty Moore.
He's one of my favorite comics in the city, and I will die on that hill.
I've yet to meet a person that doesn't love Ty Moore. Like everyone that even random people. There was a Reynoldsburg mic I was at, and I brought up Ty Moore, and the host there was like, "Oh yeah, I love Ty. Ty's great." So
Yeah, definitely. We'll get him.
Future guest Ty Moore.
We'll get him on this podcast.
He's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
He is.
So yeah, you've been a busy man all around the city.
Yes.
This episode's gonna come out on the 10th.
Oh.
So we also have one of the reasons we had Barack on here is because we're gonna plug the show we have on August 11th.
August 11th, baby, up front stage. We are doing the Hot Fuss Comedy Showcase #2.
Yeah.
You won't be in town.
I won't be in town, but it was a fun time. I love the first one.
You would have been a part of it, but I think she's going to like Tennessee to see like Elvis's grave or some shit. I think it was.
Just to see white people.
Was that it? I mean, you don't have to go away from Ohio to see that.
No, my dad's turning 60.
Okay.
It's very specific.
I'm like, you're already in Ohio. You don't need to take a road trip for that.
Right.
No, but like it was so fun, and Hot Fuzz was stand-up comedians. There was improv. It just had everything. I loved it.
High energy.
High energy.
Yeah, I want Hot Fuzz to be high energy, and I want a mixture of like veterans, but also younger comedians. I think it's important to create opportunities because I like to see the talent a person has and the potential versus, oh, well, you've been doing this 8 years. Because honestly, I've seen you do performances at 7 or 8 months, and you as well, that are funnier than I see people who have been doing it for 10 years.
I appreciate that.
We appreciate it. I hope anybody feels dissed by that. So.
I mean,
he didn't name anybody specifically.
I didn't name anyone. Like, if you heard that and you felt personally attacked by that, I would say that is a hit dog hollering. I didn't say anyone. I didn't make any implications.
Hit dog hollering. That's a white phrase.
Johnny Collins. I'm just playing. I love Johnny Collins. That's a joke. Johnny knows I love him. I'm actually going to do his podcast next Thursday. Actually, this might be the day after I do that.
Really?
So when you see this, I did this yesterday with Johnny, and Johnny's great. I love him, and he is hilarious. So I didn't actually mean Johnny. I just want to make that clear.
Shout out to Johnny Collins and his podcast that we haven't been on.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Why has that not happened? Johnny. No, we love Johnny too.
But I was gonna say sorry. So sorry. How you like that? Anyway, but so last week you had like a bunch of stand-up comedians do improv for the first time, and it was like so much fun.
Hell
Me and
yeah.
Tristan were there. Can you tell us about like why you're trying to do something like that?
Man, so I've been doing improv in Columbus since 2019. Like I told you earlier, I even had an improv podcast, and it was something that I still love to do. I still have the Illuminati. It's still a passion of mine, but I think my first comedy love was always stand-up comedy. And the first time I ever really did stand-up, I was 25 years old, which was about a decade ago. The night I turned 25, I did about 3 minutes. I got a pretty decent reaction, and I remember that same night, I ended up leaving and then coming back, and as I was walking back to my vehicle, I saw a couple of guys pointing at me. And then at that time, I'm 25, I had drunk a little bit. I'm like, oh, why are they pointing? Like, they got beef. And then I got closer, and one of them said, this was the only guy that was funny here tonight. And that was like touching, and I had just turned 25, and I was like, oh, cool. But the thing is, after I did it, I got such a strong adrenaline dump, and it like tires you out. So I was like, I'm good on trying this again for another 10 years. But finally doing improv built up to the point where my confidence on stage kind of met my confidence in my professional life, and I finally took that leap, like to go as hard into stand-up as I did with improv. So while I'm doing these circles in the stand-up community, I'm still an advocate for improv comedy. There was actually beef between the two communities earlier this year because there was a larger presence of improv comedians doing stand-up comedy. And a lot of stand-up comedians like to joke that improv comedy is gay. All right, this is not my opinion. This is not my opinion, but this is what the belief is. It's corny. It's very white. It's very just like putting on a Lifetime movie. Like, who wants to see this shit? And my goal was to show I don't think that's accurate. Not only that, I think improv is amazing and can be super entertaining when it's done well. When improv is done well, it looks like written sketches. But it can be super entertaining, but it also goes really well with stand-up comedy. When you produce a show where you have both elements, they feed into each other and create a unique experience. So I kind of made it my goal to be an advocate for improv, and I think what happened is I did well enough in stand-up that I built a degree of legitimacy. Like this guy is funny as a stand-up comedian. I'm willing to listen to what he's talking about with improv. And then last week I organized that workshop. These people showed their interest. I'm going to organize a show on August 25th at Cafe Kerouac, where they'll have the opportunity to not only do stand-up, but also perform improv for an audience. It'll probably be a free show. So if you hear this, August 25th, Cafe Kerouac, you should check it out. But the biggest compliment to me was Neff Johnson. Neff Johnson, he makes fun of everyone for whatever reason. I get the light end. He likes me. I can just tell he likes me because even when he's roasting me, I can tell he could go so much harder and he chooses not to. So thank you, Neff. See, now he's going to because he's calling me soft in front of everyone. I know that's what he's thinking. But he was super open to it. He told me people have tried to get him to do improv and he's always kind of been like, nah. And then he actually went, had a great time. And then he told me in front of everyone and he said, I can see how this helps stand-up comedy. And even at the Thursday show, he made a comment that he's growing as a comedian because he got to play and do this improv. So to do this workshop and have a bunch of stand-up comedians come do improv, not only love it, but also see how it's helping them with their craft. That was really my goal, to show like, hey, instead of being like, oh, I do this and not the other, to be like, you should do both, because you're going to be a much better comedian, regardless if it's a stand-up going to improv or vice versa.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's always been, it's funny because I came into comedy and I knew I wanted to do stand-up, but I started out in improv because I wanted to have like practice with having like kind of that like freedom of your mind, like getting out of yourself a little bit, being able to get into a character and things like that. And then I get like a couple months into like a comedy journey and I find out there's this beef between the two worlds. And I was like, so I kind of was naturally came onto the scene as like an apologist for both. So then when you started getting up on your soapbox about improv and how much it can help stand up, I was like, right on. Like I think we have the same kind of mindset on that.
Yeah, it's that beef was funny, and I'm gonna tell you specifics. All right. So Halima made a joke. I'm going to call him out. I like Halima too. Yeah, it's just what happened. These are the facts of what happened. This is public record.
It's literally, there's screenshots.
Halima made a joke about people interrupting. I think it was like Savor Pint.
Yep.
And then she said, I know that Terrence, the God Show, who's another funny improviser that's transitioned to stand-up comedy, because I'm not the only one. There's been a few that have allowed this transition. But she said, I know you and the Yes and kids like to like talk to the side, but this is stand-up comedy. Like, you should be quiet when people are doing their sets. And now in hindsight, and based on what the information I'm getting, I don't think that was a real scenario. I don't think that was really improvisers like talking too loudly. It seemed to be like targeted to just point out there's a lot of improvisers not doing comedy, and it's almost like sunning. There was like a sunning going on. But then what happened is some improvisers felt like, yo, you ain't gonna sun us, and then we came through pretty hard. Like, and I think they were caught a little off guard. They're like, I thought these were like corny white improvisers, like me, Terrence. We're both like 6'2". I'm like 250, yeah. And I'm like, no, we're about that life. So there was a little beef there, but they ended up making a joke picture where they like shook hands and said there was a.
Oh, I didn't. That's good though.
Yeah,
I thought it was real. I thought that like I heard about this. Multiple people were like, "Did you hear about the beef between the improvers and the comedians?" Like, and I thought it was all real because I didn't see their Facebooks at the time, and I didn't know about any of this. And people were still talking about it like months later. So I thought there was like this real beef going on. That's hilarious though.
Yeah, it was social media beef. It never like escalated into anything. It's not like they met outside like the Jets and the Sharks to duke it out. It wasn't like that, but it was a little bit of that vibe. But I think overall though, improv comedians, they've kind of been guerrilla in this community. Like, they produce their own shows, they go on each other's shows, they do podcasts. So when they came into the stand-up community, they started putting on shows. They started guerrilla marketing. They had all these skills that they're quickly like building a brand and a name for themselves. And I think that caught some people off guard. Mm-hmm. And there's always that element of like, who's this asshole that I haven't seen before? No, he's in the show. There's always that in human nature. And if you are that sort of person, stop doing that. What I eat doesn't make you shit. That is just my belief. And if you are a plate, like if you're looking at somebody else's plate, yours is probably going to stay empty.
Yeah, that's true. And I think there's so much, I think we talked about this in like the first episode, but there's a lot of ego that like goes into things. And I also have a problem with people who gatekeep opportunities from other people. So it's like, I think there's this idea in stand-up that somehow it's like it's all a competition, like it's all individuals trying to get ahead of other individuals, and stand-up naturally is a medium that's like collaborative.
Yeah, I think part of it comes from the fact that for a very long time the real gatekeepers were like television networks, or maybe radio to some extent. So you're really competing for very limited slots. And I kind of get that cutthroat, like, yo, if there's 1,000 of us and there's 3 opportunities, yeah, there's going to be a degree of cutthroatness. Or if you see someone who hasn't put in the reps getting that, and you're like, yo, I can see that. But in 2023, like, look at this production you're putting on. You are funding this, and you're going to have access to the same YouTube that mainstream news is using now to get to people. So now there's no reason for the gatekeeping because there's so many opportunities to collaborate and build a large audience that just did not exist even 20, 30 years ago. So if you're still living off that old school mentality, like, oh, I'm going to end up in a sitcom one day, instead of being like, oh, let me fuck around with this phone in my pocket and this laptop in my room and make my own show and see what happens, then you just don't understand the assignment, like that TikTok song I always hear.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, is that like in today's day and age, like it's so much like making your own opportunities. And I think like we talked about this. There was I think it was just on Instagram, but it was like if the gate is closed, if someone's trying to close the gate, like build a way to fly over the gate. Like it's so easy to do that now compared to in the past. Like you couldn't do that, before you had all this technology, but now it's like it kind of saturates the market a little bit, but it's like, why not be if you can be the thing that like overflows the saturated market, then people are going to remember who you are. Like
I heard people talk about like, especially when like Rihanna came out with like Fenty, like for like lingerie, and they're like Victoria's Secret was already like a big competitor. She came in and busted the market because somebody was like, no, I don't know if I should become like a YouTuber, like a soap maker, because there's already like so many soap makers or something. And they're like, well, do you think Fenty was like, oh, I can't do it because there's like, do you think Rihanna said, oh, I can't make lingerie because Victoria's Secret makes lingerie? Like that's
excuse me.
Like
sorry.
she came in and like busted it wide open, and everybody loves her. So
yeah.
I don't like that I have to come this close to this ball. Yeah. I don't like it.
We could cut and try to move it.
Okay.
Are you going to cut?
Yeah. We've, talked about merging stand-up and improv. Tell me a little bit like who you consider like influences for, you can improv, stand-up, or both.
Influences on me? I'll do improv. Are you saying like locally or nationally, just in
both.
General?
I usually start this with like famous, go like most famous to least famous.
Got it. Okay. And you said you don't even barely watch stand-up, right?
It's really funny because
I'm sorry.
I need to watch more stand-up comedians, but I know a lot more people now because I've been watching more. Like I'm still very new to like knowing who famous comedians are, but I know all the local comedians who I think are funny, and they're in my mind in a log. They're in there.
All right, cool. Because I feel like maybe I'm gatekeeping when it comes to that. I feel like if you do stand-up and you don't have an appreciation for like other people's stand-up, that seems wrong to me. I don't feel that with improv. Like I don't think you have to see other improvisers to improvise. But there's something sacred to me, and me being newer at this, maybe I shouldn't have these old man takes, but I'm like, when I hear like, oh, I don't really watch improv, I just go up there and go, and I'm like, all right, we'll see how that works out for you.
He's like calling me out.
No, you do.
Like, no, get it.
You do well. I actually I was surprised by you saying that because you do well. You have structure. I just feel when you actually watch and you find the people that you love, it helps you find your own voice.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because you know how to make people laugh because you know who made you laugh and why.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me because there's not someone that exactly fits my like brand of comedy. Because like my boyfriend has told me, he goes, your sense of humor is broken, or he's like, it's just like bizarre. He was like, you think, he goes, you're the only person I know that doesn't really think John Mulaney is funny. Is not funny. Because at
that
first,
is a hot take.
It's not a hot take. I like him now, but when I first heard his jokes, I don't know. It didn't take to me at first. But now I think he's funny. But at first, I was like, I don't know. It just like the awkward humor didn't really appeal to me at first. The awkward humor. Now I like it now because I appreciate different forms of comedy. And I know what people do, and I like appreciate more stuff. But at first, I was just like, I don't understand. This seems really awkward, and I wouldn't talk about it.
That is true. You view it differently as like an audience member versus someone who's trying to do it. Like once you've been on stage, you understand like why are they like moving in the way that they're moving, or they're saying things in the way that they are, and you're like, okay, like that's just their style.
Yeah, but no, I think he's funny now. All right, but in the beginning, he was just like, you are bizarre. I'm like, thank you.
To you John Mulaney maniacs, accept her apology, please. But all right, so to answer the original question, the people I like, starting with let's do improv because it's not as long of a list. Famous people. Whose line is it better? Whose line is it anyways? I think that's the go-to when it comes to it.
I love that show.
Everyone on it. Wayne Brady for sure. I wasn't as big of a fan of his until I saw him on Chappelle's show. Mm-hmm. And like the fact that he got mad that that Paul Mooney, another comedian I love, made the joke that he's so white that he makes Brian Gumbel, I think he said, look like Malcolm X. And then Wayne Brady got super mad and called Dave Chappelle like, yo, what the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
And then Dave Chappelle added him to the show where he's like this badass that's pimping hoes and he's out here killing people. It was so great for him to take that anger, for them to discuss it. Like, let's incorporate that into the humor.
For sure.
So definitely them for improv. Locally, I'd say top of the list for me, Scott Wheeler. I love Scott Wheeler's improv. The first time I saw him perform, he stood out to me from everyone else performing with him because he does so little, but it means so much. He doesn't move with a ton of energy. He's not, but when he does something, like, it mesmerizes you, and then his timing and the things he says, he doesn't have to say a lot to get an impact. So definitely admire Scott. He was on my podcast when I had that. Rob Moore, a good friend of mine. I love seeing him do improv as well, and he's like a super nerd. He's a DM for Dungeons and Dragons and writes stories and shit. So he's very meticulous and funny. He's like a combination of smart and like goofy. I like all the people on his improv group. Eric is hilarious. He directs movies and things, and I love seeing his mind at work. Kelsey's hilarious as well. Mm-hmm. Jim Manelli's in that group. He's amazing.
Yeah. Jim, you were so funny to me.
Shout out to a newer guy that I've known for a few years, and I never realized how funny he is, but Peter Maddox.
Peter's so funny.
Oh my God, Peter.
I have to say
good,
this.
Man.
He has like a little bit of that swagger that Scott Wheeler has.
Yeah.
He's one of those where, like, when he says something, it means something, and he's not super high energy. But when he does things, like, they matter or they're funny. The timing is just there. He's going to be part of our show on the 11th, too. He's going to be sketching.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's another thing. If you don't know who Peter Maddox is, Peter is like a fantastic artist as well as an improv performer.
Yes.
So he will draw sketches that happen. He does it every month in the Something Sketchy show with Scott.
He looks like a general manager at a Speedway, but he is like...
Oh, my God. We mean that in the best way possible.
I do.
Peter.
I really do. But it catches you off guard because he's incredibly talented. His sketches are great. His improv is really good, and I'm excited to see him grow and develop. So shout out to him.
I would have to say, if I think anyone was like a master out of everyone that I knew on the improv scene, I would say it was Peter. Like, hands down. Not even kidding, Peter. I think you are the best of the best.
The best of the best.
I'm not shitting. I'm not gassing him up so he stays in our improv group or so he keeps making sketches for free. I'm just serious.
No,
serious.
I actually heard that similar feedback from he's an affirmative distraction. His name is Motz. And he's an affirmative distract. Cool ass dude.
Motz is so funny too.
Yeah, he's hilarious. And Motz is like, yo, he's Peter's the one person he brought up as someone that's like just really, really funny. So, shout out to Motz as well. Motz, I just met him more recently, but he's a great performer, real chill, cool ass dude. Mm-hmm. I've already had a few hour-long conversations in like the last week with him because he's a really cool guy. We worked on a movie last week. Now, stand-up, man, I have so many influences. So let me start as far as famous stand-up comedians. George Carlin is probably the pinnacle for me. Just a combination of like observational humor, just how hilarious his observations on things are, how cutthroat he was with the jokes that he would make. Like I sent somebody a 10-minute clip the other day because they hadn't seen George Carlin, and he's joking about like the types of people that he would want to see killed.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I actually thought of a bit I was seeing earlier because people have all these yard signs like vote this or vote no, and then I was like, wow, that has to be the laziest form of activism. Like, how about a sign that says like go fuck yourself or something like that? And then I thought it, I was like, That's like one I can tell I'm pulling from my George Carlin love.
Right, you're like
that.
Give me a real cause. Like
Dave Chappelle to me, and I feel like that's the easy answer now. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna be a hipster with this, but I've felt this way since I was in fucking high school, like sophomore year of high school. Killing Them Softly was one of my favorite things to listen to. It would make me laugh over and over and over. The way people used to listen to like music, I used to listen to stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Lewis Black was another one that I listened to a bunch. Apparently I like angry old, like jaded white men.
That makes so much sense though, because your style is very like, it's very pissed off and like aggressive.
You do. You're like, you know what really pisses me off?
You'll say that, you're like, this pisses me the fuck off.
It makes sense when you know who I like.
Right, it's the Carlin and the Lewis Black coming out.
Yeah, I love Lewis Black. One of my favorite jokes that always pops to mind when he's like talking about, I think, Mississippi. Or no, it was Arkansas, going from like 50th to 48th. As far as education, how Bill Clinton was bragging about it. And he's like, oh, really? Like, what'd you do? Give them pencils? It's just so good.
It's so good. Very simple.
And I also grew up in Wisconsin. He has this joke I love about how people in Wisconsin really drink, and it's true. And he's like, well, how do you celebrate things? He's like, we wear hats. So he's one I really love.
You're wearing a hat right now.
Yes.
You celebrating being on the podcast?
Yeah, and I love, and they're political. Yeah, I am celebrating being on here with you guys. I love seeing your success. I love you guys locally. Honestly, I love the hustle. I love the grind. No, honestly, the way you sold out that Kerouac show, like that is hustle. And you building this podcast, just putting yourself out there, creating your own opportunities. I'm all about that. So I much respect to both of you. That's why I have you in the Illuminati, because you're people I love to collaborate with, because it brings out the best in me, and I hope I have that same effect. And based on what you said yesterday, I do.
For sure.
Well, thanks. You didn't need to kiss our ass, but we'll take it.
We kissed his ass first. So.
Yeah, we did.
It's reciprocal.
Yes. That's called collaboration, folks.
If you're not kissing ass, you're not on the same team.
No.
There's a few more shout-outs I want to do with the stand-up. As far as big-time names, I love Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham's probably the youngest comedian that I feel is like one of my spirit animal comedians. Like I hear where his brain goes or his songs, and I'm like, I understand. I understand what he's doing. I fucking love him. He's hilarious. He's quick. I also love Ron White. Was another old drunk white guy that I was a big fan of. As far as local comics, Ty Moore, one of my favorites. I think he could go on any stage and put on a show.
Love you, Ty.
His energy, and he's just such a good, wholesome dude. Like, I love when I'm driving with him and I do dumb shit, like in my car. He'll always make a comment like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, you had to do that. Like, sometimes you just got to go on a red light. Like, I get it. And it's so encouraging. I'm like...
So I did this thing when we just did our show where I gave everybody like a personal affirmation the day of the show. And when it got around, it's like Ty's turn. I was like, Ty, you are all talent and no ego. Like he is way too humble for how talented he is.
I agree 100%. The ego to talent ratio, he has a good, like, no ego, lots of talent. Some people have that balance off. They got too much ego for the talent they actually possess.
Yep.
Johnny Collins. Again, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Johnny. I promise you this is a joke. I love Johnny Collins. He's fucking hilarious. I'm just giving him shout outs because I love him that much.
Right. It's like, it's reverse.
Yes. I'm not talking. The people I don't name are the ones I don't like.
Right. So we haven't talked about you on this podcast.
We haven't talked about you yet. We secretly hate you. I'm kidding. No, we love everybody.
I won't give you any clout. So if I named you Halim, I named you. That means I like you. If I don't name you, that means I don't fuck with you. Let me see. Who else do I like locally? Xavier G. Dunson. Just such a cool ass dude. I love how much work he puts into his open mics, the pictures he takes. He has a timer there so you know where you are. Like, he creates this environment that's welcoming for new people to come and get stage time. And if you go to enough of his mics, you'll look like a professional comic with the dope ass pictures he takes every time you're there.
Yeah. All the pictures that I use for my personal comedy, like to promote myself, they're like, everyone's like, send me a headshot. It's pictures that Xavier took.
He's out here. Yes, he deserves full credit for that. He should probably be charging more for that service, but he's not. So take advantage of his dumb ass at the moment and go get your dope ass pictures at his open mics. He has one Sundays and he has one on Tuesdays. Yep. So hit him up. Other local comics. I love Walter Yosef. Really good friend of mine. I love seeing her up there. Murph Henderson. Really good friend of mine. I love seeing him up there as well. A newer guy that hasn't done a lot, but I've become really good friends with. He's actually like childhood best friends with Murph, but me and him, I gotten really close. His name is Pedro, and he has so much talent and potential. He just hasn't gotten the reps in yet, but I already see it in him, and he reminds me of somebody else that I admire, which is Mitch Hedberg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm huge on Mitch Hedberg. Love his jokes. I can't ride an escalator and not think of Mitch Hedberg.
Right.
So shout out to Pedro as well. Neff Johnson, who I already gave a shout out to. There's a few other names I would say. Samuel Orr, I love his like cards and like he's always joking about killing himself. And there's always a slight second where I'm like, is he really joking or not? But I'm kidding. I fucking love Samuel. Samuel's cool. He's the one that got us the location for our
the
improv workshop.
Yeah.
So I'd say I'd stop there. I've been going for a while now.
Yeah. So if
You're kissing a lot of ass.
If you weren't named in that, you know what that means. No, but I think that's a testament to how many like really talented and really good people we have in this city who are like just trying to pursue like the same dream.
Actually, I want to give a shout out to one new person. I have to. You're gonna like this one. Last one, I promise. Mickey.
Yeah.
I love seeing Mickey not only do improv but perform.
Oh yeah.
My girl loves her too. My girl says she looks like a Disney character.
For sure. Yeah.
I love her decisions. I love her boldness. She's like almost has asshole-ish energy. But
that's so true.
But she does it in like a subtle way that's really humorous and doesn't come off like dickish. Like it comes off like, wow, you're funny.
It's because the delivery is so kind. Like she'll say something that's like unkind, but in like this the kindest way.
I took her to improv with me like for the first time, like not even like 2 months ago when I first met her. I was like, come to improv, and she immediately did like the greatest impression of Elmo I've ever seen. And with no training, nothing, and she's just like, Elmo! I'm like, where did you even learn how to do that?
Some people are just naturals.
I know,
That's the thing.
I hate her. She's a natural.
All right, no more shout outs.
We're done with that. So yeah, that's like their influences with the comedy. It's funny that like it's all like angry old white dudes.
Essentially, yes.
But it works. I don't know. You definitely make it work.
But you can see that in my comedy though, how they influence.
As soon as you started listing off all the people, I was like, I can see it now. I can see it.
Yeah, there's like an edge that's not. It's not edgy, but there's like a. Like I said, like an aggressiveness.
Like you wouldn't expect a Dominican guy to be like an angry old white dude in his 60s.
Oh, shout out to Dick Gregerson too. I know I said no more. Yes, that was it.
Yeah, got all your shout outs out.
I mean Dick Gregory. Damn, I said Gregerson. Fuck.
Yeah, I didn't know who you were talking about.
Dick Gregerson. Dick Gregory. Fuck. And
right.
Mark Gregory, his nephew, who's in Columbus Comedy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right, that's it.
Oh my God.
Lots of shout outs. This is becoming like the world's #1 ass kissing podcast of a very specific like subculture.
You have
You
to,
started
man.
it.
I did.
You
have to.
it.
You gotta gas the people up that are doing things the way you like. You feel me?
It's true.
Yeah. We just want people to feel supported from afar. You know,
This is an improv thing.
Yeah,
This is a very
we're
improv trait.
like,
Yes.
like very much like we love you, but like they don't know who we are, and they're like, who the fuck are these people talking about me on their podcast?
For real. I don't even know that guy.
yeah. But that's a good point. That it's like it's more of an improv thing to do that. Like stand-ups don't necessarily shout each other out in the same way. It's like maybe at like a piggyback mic, you know, they'll say like one or two words in between. Usually that's like some kind of asshole thing too that you say. So, but I think, you know, improv is like, it's all about building people up and it's all about making the other person funnier. So I think that's that mindset that I have, that I'm like I said, I literally did affirmations for our people who are in our show, because I was like, everyone needs a little bit of like, you know, building up emotionally every once in a while.
So what are the chances?
I just tear them down
go ahead.
later. I'm sorry. I was gonna say I just tear them down later by dissing them on stage. Never mind.
You did do that.
What are
They
the chances?
asked for it. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to ask, what are the chances someone's going to see this and then go to Johnny and be like, yo, Barack was on a podcast talking mad shit about you.
If anyone's listening, then the chances are very high. But the chances of someone listening, I'm not sure.
That's fair.
Not yet. We'll become popular soon.
Let's add this segment to again clarify that those were jokes and that I love Johnny Collins.
Disclaimer.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, if you were mentioned in this podcast in a way that you don't like, it was a joke.
Yes.
If you were not mentioned in this podcast, it was just simple oversight. Doesn't mean that we hate you.
Or it does mean that we hate you.
Or it does mean that we might have beef with you. But don't take it personally.
I don't have beef with many people. Only like 20 of them.
Only 20. Only 20. That's probably more than I have.
I don't just fucking with everybody.
What we got next?
So we wanted to continue, or actually introduce a segment that we're calling ASMR Debate. So ASMR Debate works to where we will debate a topic that we have generated using AI. One of us will take the side... one of us will take either side of the debate, and then since we have 3 people, then one person will randomly call out ASMR mode, and then you have to make your next piece of your argument using ASMR directly into the microphone and using sound effects.
It's an ASMR debate.
All right, so I'll yell out when I think everyone should do ASMR, and we were going to debate whether we should care if aliens are here or not.
Yeah.
So, what side do you want, Barack?
Man, I'm on the side that we shouldn't care.
That we shouldn't care, and I'm arguing that we should care that we have aliens allegedly.
Yes, is this what the AI came up with?
Yeah.
What did the AI that was it?
Yeah, I just said give me debate topics that are not political, and then it spat out like aliens, and
I feel like that's a political topic.
It's very political, yeah.
That's like the most political topic.
Like, what, aliens?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, think of people who wear tinfoil hats and shit.
Right. No, well, we're debating if we care if they're
I
here
get
or
it.
not.
I get it. I'm just saying. You get my point.
We're gonna debate it from a non-political standpoint.
Not red and blue. Political.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like
just
they're covering it up.
green
though.
and flesh-colored
Ew.
debate, not red and blue.
Sounds like an STD penis.
Green and flesh-colored. You heard it here first. All right.
I want to go to the doctor's.
Anyway, Brock, you have the floor.
Look, man, I don't think... Look, I can't even bring myself to care about the majority of the 8 billion people on this planet. I don't have enough fucks to give. My fields have grown barren. For aliens to add them to the equation. Especially, we don't even know what personality types we're dealing with. Are they haters too? Do they like bad TV shows? Like, it makes me wonder what their opinion would be on what Lizzo's been up to. It's like, I don't care. I just can't bring myself to care. I don't think anyone should care. They've probably been around forever. And they've just acclimated themselves so they can do their dirt in the dark, and that's fine. We all do our dirt in the dark, right? So it's, as long as they're not like rapey, which they probably are, those ones we should care about. We should care about the rapey aliens, because rape is not cool, and I just want to put that out there. Alien or human, it's not cool at all and under any circumstances.
Okay, Tristan!
So you're setting up a straw man argument and using some very severe allegations to the alien race by insinuating that they automatically participate in rape because they might be different than your normative view of what human beings can be. I just want to point that out, that those are some pretty serious allegations. I also think that we don't know if aliens are all living among humans or if they are all locked in Area 51. And if they're all locked in Area 51, that means their autonomy has been taken from them, and we absolutely should care about that.
AMSR mode.
Can you imagine aliens in a cage? Their entire family all locked in one cage. And you hear
Trump put them in there.
The jingle of the lock because they want to get out and they can't get out. And so they're banging on the bars.
Please, I'm only 6.
And we can't even understand what they're saying, but you can hear the distress in their voice, and they're... May
I have some water, senor?
And maybe some of the aliens are Mexican. We don't know.
For sure, a lot of aliens are Mexican. I can assure you of that. But look, man, what group of people do you know probe people against their will? I'm just saying, it's rapists and aliens. That's it. So there's a very large intersection of probing and experimentation being done against people's wills. All right.
Oh my God.
And then they also drug you, so you don't even remember what happened. You just wake up.
Mode.
You just wake up because this ASMR isn't doing what it should be doing. It should be making you fall asleep, just like the alien in your room after they've drugged you, and then they have a beam take you to their ship where they do ungodly things to you.
We must collect the data.
We must collect the data. And humans only have data in a few ways that I can think of. So
Only rectally.
yeah, so protect your fluids, my friends, is what I'm saying.
Who do you think won the debate? I am so glad I did not participate and just casually threw around the R word for like 5 minutes.
Yes. Saying that it's wrong.
We were saying that it's wrong. We are
Yes. There's unequivocally, there's no debate about that specific topic.
Okay, we're moving on.
I also didn't get a counter argument. I didn't get a second argument.
I don't give a fuck, we're done.
Let him get his counter argument.
We're done. I'm done.
Apologist. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
You're an alien probe apologist, Heather, because you think they should be. I didn't participate. I just did ASMR mode. Anyway, is there any like another segment we like to do? Blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. Do you want to tell any crazy stories? Me and Tristan are sharing a mic, and it's a struggle.
Ironically, I feel like ASMR is like something an alien would do. Like the whole thing is weird. Like fall asleep in this trance while like weird voices that you can faintly hear are like playing weird sounds for you. Like that's, I'm assuming that's a lot like what getting abducted by aliens is like.
It probably feels very similar. You know, my least favorite thing in ASMR videos, because I've watched a few of them, and I kind of like what I like is that those videos, it's not people talking. Like they're just doing their thing. They're like opening up packages and whatever. But then when they take the knife and they scrape it across like bread or like a grilled cheese or something to show you how crispy it is, I cannot stand that. Like that noise sends me over the edge and it makes me turn off like a video immediately. Like most people like it, but I'm like, don't scrape the knife on the sandwich. It just doesn't. I know that's a hot take.
The sound of a sandwich is fucking irritating is what you're saying.
I know how to torture Tristan now is what he's telling me.
I just feel it's like one of these content creations that is like the laziest possible. Like, oh, let me just turn my phone on and live for a little bit, and I'll just upload the audio and like put a picture of like a child sleeping in bed or some shit.
You have to say like it's pretty ingenious because all they have to do is like make food for themselves and film it, and then people will watch it, and then they'll get paid for content creation, or like they're walking down the street, or they're like doing their makeup or something. Then they're getting paid for doing everyday things. Like you gotta admit, it's kind of genius.
Yeah,
it kind of is.
If you're a hack, but the biggest hacks to me as far as content creators are the ones who will like upload a video and then they're like on the side and the whole time they're like
reacting to their own video.
I hate those videos. No, it's not even their own video. It's like the video's interesting without the addition of them sitting there. Like, I don't give a fuck what your reactions to the video are. Let me have my own react. Like, could you imagine stand-up comedy? If there's a stand-up comedian up there and then you had a person on the stage that's just reacting to the comedian for like you, it'd be awkward, right?
Unless it was a hype man. If every time I told a joke they go, yeah.
I would allow that.
They're like, say what? Like,
Oh my god.
Okay, I guess in that scenario alone, I will allow that.
yeah. You know, I think some of the hackiest content that gets put on the internet is if people like had conversations with their friends that they would have anyway, and they just put on a microphone and a camera and had that conversation.
Real hacky, low budget.
Did you just break the fourth wall, Tristan?
That was the joke.
Tristan broke the fourth wall saying we're hacks, but I think my name is Heather.
It's called self-awareness.
It is self-awareness. So we have one more thing that we'd like to ask guests. Do you have a crazy story that you want to tell us that the audience can choose whether or not they believe it?
A crazy story. Man, I feel like I have a lot, but which one do I? All right, let me share this one. It was a few years ago. See, I like to think I'm a relatively nice guy. Relatively nice. Until you fuck with me. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like I'm a Gemini. Like, you know, as nice as I am, there's an equal side of asshole within me that I have to contain, like a raging fire.
Yeah.
And at Speedway once, I got a guy like fired. I got him fired. I told him I would get him fired, and it ended up happening, and it made me happy. Even though now in hindsight, I'm like, no, in hindsight, fuck that guy. They shouldn't have fucked with me. So long story short, they do this thing where they're like, scan your stuff, and they're like, do you want a Speedy Rewards card? And I'm like, I don't. But then they would scan the card anyways and just throw it out. I'm like, yo, I said I didn't want it. And he's like, it doesn't even have your name on it. I'm like, okay, but I'm giving you my card, which clearly has my name on it, so you're still tracking my transactions. And then he's like, oh, well, if you don't scan it, you could go buy somewhere else. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was part of your policy, asshole. Then he said, get out or I'm going to call the cops. And then I got real gutter, and I said, well, call the cops then, you motherfucker. And I ended up leaving before they called the cops because if you couldn't tell, I really don't like interacting with the cops. But I have this community group where I live in Reynoldsburg, and Reynoldsburg is what I call home of the poor suburban whites and the affluent Africans. That's what's in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. So I'm there, and I post in this group about, yo, like, these people are scanning your stuff at Speedway, and they shouldn't. I confirmed with the corporate office, blah, blah, blah. And then one of the workers goes and like, oh, the reason we kicked you out is because we caught you trying to steal. What? And then I went, I'm like, all right. I showed up, and I said, look, since apparently you caught me almost stealing, I want to see that footage right now of me almost stealing, because if you can't produce it, I'm going to sue your ass, and I'm going to sue Speedway for defamation and libel. I forget which one is the one when it's written versus spoken, but it was written on social media, so I think that might be libel.
I think that's libel.
That's libel, right? All right. So, yeah, I went back, and he did end up calling the cops on me. The cops did come, and then I was banned from the Speedway. So then, this is where I tap into my white American side. I went, they defamed my name, Barack Lesnar, and the guy's like, that's not even your real name, so it doesn't matter. It's not defamation, except Barack Lesnar LLC is actually incorporated in the state of Ohio.
Right.
So I said, not only did you defame me, you defamed my business, and you're accusing me of stealing, which I did not do. So if you can't produce the evidence of me doing this, I'm going to sue you. And I sent a certified letter to the Speedway corporate office. I sent them like my seal certification for Barack Lesnar LLC. I sent the screenshots of the defamation being made. Speedway ended up calling me, be like, oh, that person's been let go. The assistant manager that made the comment, he's like, he's been disciplined, and then he was gone within like a month. They apologized to me profusely. And they called the Reynoldsburg Police Department and told them I was no longer banned from the Speedway. So when I told them that first day, like, I'm not the one to fuck with, he learned his lesson quickly that I'm really not.
Yeah, like, do you know how badass you have to be to take on Speedway and win? Like, you took on that entire company and made them, like, crawl home with their tail between their legs.
Yes.
Firing all of the like necessary employees along the way.
Yeah, so that's what I do. I get minimum wage employees fired from their gas station jobs.
Maybe don't put it like that. I mean, you get assholes fired.
Like he defamed you and they lied and racially profiled you. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
really?
it's fucked up.
That's super fucked up. Oh, well, he looks big, dumb, and black. Let's just say he was stealing, and everyone's going to be like, oh, yeah. I'm like, no.
Yeah, and then, like, the police are watching you, and they think you're, like, some sort of, like, robo-rouser.
And I'm banned from Speedway. Like, what kind of shit is that?
like be banned from Speedway. I think that's like you should like use that as like a fun fact about you. Be like, I was once banned from a Speedway.
It's true. It's true.
They made the assumption that you're big, dumb, and black, and you were like, no, I'm big, smart, and black.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. See,
I'm sorry.
it's true. I mean, it's
true.
a fair point.
It's very true. It's very true. Barack's very, very smart.
Intelligent.
I was gonna say big and black. He's smart too.
Those are the most important points. Well, Barack, we have loved having you as a part of the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
I've loved being here. Thank you.
Yeah. So this has been Comedic Behavior Therapy. I've been Tristan Shae.
I've been Heather Scott.
I've been Barack Lesnar.
Yeah. If you want to laugh about it, laugh about it. If you want to
Cry about it, you can cry about it.
either way, do what you need to do. Bye.
Bye.
Except,
Except what?
just end it there.
Oh, okay.